Generation X. In general terms, those born between 1965 and 1980. Latchkey kids. Independent. Existentialism. Modern philosophy focusing on personal experience, human ability, and responsibility in an otherwise meaningless universe. We're the cause. This is the effect. We're the Gen Existentialists. Welcome into the Gen Existentialist podcast. My name is Scott.
And I'm Bunny.
And we are here to tickle your funny bone and tickle your patriotic bone, as it were, this week. And it's funny, sometimes we get into the studio and we get started.
Is that the red, white, and blue balls? Is that
yes,
what we're talking about? Okay.
Exactly.
Whoa,
whatever color your balls happen to be this week.
Well, maybe you're French.
We come into the studio sometimes and we immediately start, because we've known each other so long, we immediately start talking about stuff. And if we're not careful, we'll go down a path and we'll just talk for an hour before we realize, oh crap, we were supposed to be like doing a podcast and we should have recorded this. So literally a few seconds ago, I said, stop. Before we go any further, we should be recording this. So earlier today, during this session, I posted on Facebook that, hey, we're getting together today and recording. If somebody has a topic, send it to us before noon, and we'll see what we can do about getting it in. So we had two. So the first one we're going to do is a question actually from, did you have Miss Pennington? Okay, I did.
I did not.
Okay, she was my high school chemistry teacher. Fantastic teacher, one of the best I had. And her question was basically a statement. It's about blind patriotism. It's one thing to be patriotic, but blind patriotism, is it good or bad? And that started you and I down a path of talking about patriotism and war. We touched on theology real quick before I kind of pulled it back and said, no, we need to start recording. So our basic premise for this episode is going to be this. What is patriotism, and can blind patriotism work? My take, I'll go ahead and answer first. I don't believe in blind patriotism. I think you always have to question. I think the most patriotic thing you can do is question everything about your government, because it ensures that you keep things on the straight and narrow, or it at least gives you a pathway to that. Like I've said many times, there are two words in the English language that are just supremely important. One is the strongest word in the language, and that word is no. And the most important word in the language is why. So that's my premise, is that blind patriotism is bad. You always have to question, where do you come in on that?
All right. I don't know what the concept of blind patriotism really is.
Patriotism without question.
Right.
Whatever it is, you are wrapped and shrouded in the flag, whatever flag of whatever country. This is not just America.
There are plenty of countries out there that participate in that then. What I would say is it comes down to the old adage from Red Dawn.
Okay.
That's because we live here. That's one of the biggest lines from that movie. And I think there comes a point where, are you confusing blind patriotism with I'll follow anything the government says no matter who the president is?
I think that's or that you'll follow the president regardless.
Yeah, the president isn't your country.
Correct.
Your country is your country. So I think there are some people that are very loyal to the soil they live on.
Mm-hmm. Or to the Constitution.
Or the Constitution, yeah. And I think that goes that way with a lot of countries out there, especially Middle Eastern countries are very soil-based. They're very patriotic to their country and their cause.
Or theologically based.
True.
Yeah.
I think it all kind of intertwines there. So I think it comes down to how shaky do you feel like your position is of because you live here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good reason to root for your team. Let's call them teams. It makes it a little easier. So if we say everything is a team. Team so-and-so. Think about it like a baseball. And maybe you live on a losing team. maybe you live in Cincinnati where the Reds are, and they can't seem to get their footing anymore since the 90s. So,
As in 1990.
Yeah, exactly. And, you have these groups of people who are blindly, supportive of the Reds because they live here.
Sure.
This is their town, my hometown pride.
Mm-hmm.
I'll root for my boys no matter what. Boop, boop, boop. It's the same with the Bengals. It's the same with the Stingers or whoever the hockey team is here now. Cyclones. Did we have this team, the Stingers?
We did.
Was that a thing?
Yes.
That was about the
back
late
late 70s in the World Hockey Association.
Well, there you go. That's about the last time I paid attention to hockey in this town. Okay.
We also had Mighty Ducks for a few years.
Did we really?
We did, yeah.
What did the Silverbacks come in?
The Silverbacks were a soccer team.
Okay. See, I guess I'm not blindly patriotic is what I'm getting to.
But the thing is, and the reason I don't take umbrage with what you're saying, because I get it, but if you ask me who my favorite baseball teams are, because I left the Reds, I was a Reds fan, grew up a Reds fan. I left the Reds about 5 years ago when they kind of shifted and sort of became a farm team for the other major league teams.
Sure.
They bring up talent and sell it and trade it away. So my two favorite baseball teams are the Toronto Blue Jays and the Seattle Mariners. Couldn't really get much farther away from where we're at than them. And it's kind of the same thing with hockey teams. My favorite hockey teams are the Maple Leafs from Toronto and the Kraken from Seattle. I just got this Toronto-Seattle thing going on.
Yeah, now why are you so invested in those teams?
The Maple Leafs I kind of picked up on years and years ago because I was an English major in college. And when I started to get into hockey, I was intrigued by the fact that they were the Maple Leafs instead of the Maple Leaves. And I was just like, okay, I'm in.
I didn't
that's
know
my
that.
team.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's why I'm a Maple Leafs
blind
fan.
To these things.
As far as the Seattle Kraken, a couple years ago when they came into the league, I was like, I need a Western Conference team. They were the new one. Picked them. I love their logo, love their colors. The Seattle Mariners I picked up on because I was a Randy Johnson fan.
Okay.
And a lot of people like Ken Griffey Jr., a lot of people on the team from the 90s I really liked. So I've been a Mariners fan for a while, and the Blue Jays I've been a fan since they won the World Series back-to-back in the early 90s.
See, so folks, we're not going in a sports direction here. I'm going to wind this all back around. Those were a lot of weird, disparate reasons why you are loyal to certain teams.
Well, but see, I'm not loyal to a fault because like with the Reds, if you start running your business poorly, if the Blue Jays had let Vladimir Guerrero Jr. walk instead of re-signing him last year, first baseman, best player on the team.
Okay.
If they had let him walk,
he sounds like a Ruski to me, like a dirty commie to me. Sorry.
If they had let him walk,
yeah,
I might have backed off them too, because that's the kind of move for a team that you go, that's a generational talent there. That's the guy that you've kind of built your team around. You're going to let him walk away. Meh.
Yeah, I think maybe the question originally from our provider here, the question provider, was more about blind faith toward presidents as opposed to countries, because there are so many different reasons why you could love a team.
Sure.
And there are people in this country and every other country that have so many different reasons why they love where they live and why they will follow and fight and die for their team. Yeah. It could be that their family is invested in the military. It could be that they're really invested in the infrastructure of the country. It could be they just really think the flag's cool. It could be that they really enjoy their neighborhood so much and they don't want to see it change. You know?
I would agree with that. Like, I've lived in Northern Kentucky most of my life. Yeah. I love Northern Kentucky, Southwestern Ohio, Southeast Indiana. Just this is my area. Living in near Lexington for about 13 years, when my wife and I got married, it never felt like home.
All right.
And I can't really, I'm a writer. I can't really put into words why.
I've lived in places like that, sure. I think everybody has that's moved around. They've lived somewhere where they may have lived for 10 years, but they never quite felt like they fit in.
Yeah. So coming back here, it felt good. I love being here. Even though the overall political climate in this area is way too conservative for me.
Okay.
It's not as open as I wish it were.
Mm-hmm.
I love the area.
Sure.
I love the people. Even the ones that don't agree with me, I'm cool with. Everybody can have a different opinion from me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling, though, to figure out, as we're talking about this, am I blindly infatuated or in love with this area? And if so, why?
No.
Because I feel like maybe I am.
Like I said, I don't think there's anything such as blind patriotism or blind faith in that respect, because people have lots of different reasons to love whatever they love. You won't understand all of them, and you don't need to understand all of them.
Right.
I mean, it's not your business to understand why people are diehard Northern Kentucky fans versus diehard across the river fans. You know, who the hell cares?
Yeah.
For me, I will say I love this country. I would fight for this country if I had to, and I'd die for this country if I had to. Why? Because my family has a very long history in this country.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of things I'd like to preserve about this country. And I never felt that I was super strong on board with all that, because I've had a lot of programming through my life, through various places I've been and educational institutions I've gone through and people I've listened to online and other people in my life. But when I took a cross-country trip across this country and did all back roads, did not go on the highways unless it was absolutely necessary. We drove through a flooded area in Arkansas, so I had to go on the highway for a little bit.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was a very long and languid back roads tour, getting to meet people from so many different states I'll never probably go to again.
Mm-hmm.
And people were lovely. They all were different, wildly different. You know, I hung out and talked to braceros, people that come across the border to work,
mm-hmm.
and ranches in northern Texas at a small general store. I talked to farmers in Iowa, just goofballs in Nebraska, met people in Colorado, New Mexico, Wisconsin, Illinois, the whole bit. The only one I didn't care for was Missouri. Sorry, guys, if you're listening out there. Not my favorite state, but hey, I'm glad you guys like it. But, Arkansas, of all places, meeting people that were just lovely.
Yeah.
And I realized that there's a lot more to this country than whoever's in charge for the next 4 years plus.
And there are a lot more things that bind us than there are that separate us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And that's why I am in love with this country.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it's the best end-all, be-all, never going to be replaced? I think it's the best for me. I think this is a place where I fit in the best. Now, people can argue, I've got friends and people who actually probably listen in Iceland right now, of all places. Now, I couldn't think of a place that seems more foreign to me, in my mind. For some reason, it's a faraway fantasy land in my mind.
It's one of those places I would love to go.
Sure, I'd love to see it too, but it's one of those places that I think is probably incredibly lovely.
Mm-hmm.
But would I feel at home in Iceland? Probably not. It would probably be a lot like when I lived in Pittsburgh or anywhere else, where I just didn't really feel like I fit in. People were fine.
Yeah.
The cities were great. I enjoyed, nobody treated me terribly bad, but I just didn't feel like I belonged there.
Sure.
I'm a mountain boy, I'm a hillbilly. I come from a long line of Appalachian hillbillies.
Yeah.
I belong here. This is where I feel at home.
Yeah.
So did I drive all over the country with my wife? Yes, of course. I saw wonderful things, but I couldn't have been happier when we pulled into Land Between the Lakes, which is down in western Kentucky.
Because the landscape changes.
Yeah, the landscape changes wildly.
Home.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like I can breathe again,
That's the thing I didn't like living around Lexington is it's too fucking flat.
I mean,
it's just...
the funny thing is, we talked about this before. When we lived in Cincinnati, we lived just north of Cincinnati, and the tension around there, you could cut it with a knife, and it felt like that throughout all of Ohio for me.
Yeah.
Maybe not when you get out of the city, but I will say Cincinnati area, it felt like that. But once you crossed that bridge and once you saw the hills, both of us felt like we could breathe.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
you know, and it felt like home.
Yeah, totally get that.
So, kind of a little aside there, trying to diffuse the political partisan stuff here.
No, I think the thing that you picked up on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the people are the actual country.
Of course.
And you have to differentiate the people in the country from the current political machine completely, whichever side or sides that you're on.
Yeah, either side, they're not like you.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't care about you. I mean, they
say they do.
They take huge amounts of money from all sorts of corporations and other countries and political interests and, social interest groups. That's what they care about. Mm-hmm. They care about maintaining power and growing rich and living in this la-la land outside of you. And you, my friends, have allowed this.
We have. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, everybody listening out there has allowed this. Now, it doesn't matter who you vote for, whatever. I mean, you're basically watching WWF.
Yeah,
or WWE,
very much.
Whatever it is nowadays.
That's the thing. I mean, we've talked about politics a lot on this show, and keep in mind, we're Generation X. We can go back to a time, even in the 80s, when the polarization was really starting to happen. But even then, in Congress, there was bipartisan work. People got together and talked and co-sponsored bills from each side of the aisle. That's the way things used to work. That's the way things could still work. But we've allowed the division. We've allowed the situationist agenda to take hold. We've allowed the spectacle to overtake the humanity.
Oh, and it's been that way for maybe 100 years. I mean, maybe.
I look at it like, to me, it happened in the 70s. When the Republican Party aligned itself with the evangelical right, it was strictly in a move to cover over Watergate, get that in the rearview mirror, and take power. And that's the road we've been on ever since. Mm-hmm. Spectacle.
Sure.
Find a hot button issue, rile people up, create division, because this goes back centuries. Divide and conquer.
Of course.
If you've got a populace, you don't want them rising up against you and challenging your power. Divide them. Here, bread and circus, go over there. Fight over that.
One of the reasons why I love this country that we're in right now is that we can have a shitty political system.
Mm-hmm.
We can have a shitty corporate system. And people can still live.
Yeah.
A relatively safe and comfortable life. They may not be rich, they may not be in the best neighborhood or whatever, but you're in a country where you can actually change your circumstances still, which is nice.
Yeah.
But we are also in a country where, unlike some countries we mentioned, like let's say Middle East or something, where if your government are real shitheels and want to start trouble, that puts your life in danger.
Sure.
Because there are lots of bombs dropping around there, not just ours. All sorts of people are dropping bombs everywhere and, causing trouble, shooting across borders.
Yeah.
People are being rounded up into camps in some Asian countries and stuff. Yeah. I mean, because of the way they believe or whatever. And you can complain all you want about, the evangelical Christians and, the stupid Islam people and the, whatever, the atheists and the blah, blah, blah. Nobody's getting rounded up and put into camps in this country,
No, not yet.
Well, not at this point in time.
And I would hope that if something like that...
That's why I think this country it's really special in that respect, is that we can have... We are so diverse in this country, unfortunately. I say that like that.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're at a point now of critical diversity where people just don't get along. We're starting to break apart into lines, like in a big way.
Do you think that is true, or is that a media concoction? Do you actually see it in everyday life? Because I don't.
I don't see it in everyday life walking up and down the street,
exactly.
But I know there are a number of groups that are starting their own communities.
There have been things like that for years. Don't go to Idaho.
Well, we're getting in a situation now where that's becoming more and more proliferate. I mean, you have an entire Hasidic Jewish population that bought an entire section of North Carolina in the hills where they're starting their own Jews-only community because they want to be around people like them. You had an African-American group do the same thing in Georgia, bought a huge swath of land for African-Americans only. You've got whites doing the same thing in Arkansas right now, which is like a land back type movement where they bought a big section of mountains in the Ozarks and they're creating a whites-only community. And you see this even on smaller levels where you have little China, little Italy, little blah, 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 little Korea in cities because people start to self-segregate.
That's always been that way. Birds of a feather. You're going to go with the people that you have the most in common with. That's kind of typical, but it doesn't mean that you
agree with that. I think that's a wonderful thing to be able to choose who you want to be around.
Yeah.
Is one of the few freedoms that we do have still.
But the problem comes when any group tries to impinge on others and their areas and territory. To bring up the current problem between Israel and Palestine. Here's my problem with that. Most of the people in Palestine weren't Hamas. Most of the people in Israel don't necessarily support going in and just wiping out Palestine. Most people, most human beings, just want to live their lives, just want to do their thing, be happy, be successful, raise a family, do whatever, and be cool. But everybody gets throttled in with their local government or their local country, and they get run over because of it.
Yeah, that's why I like to talk about it as sports teams. Because it diffuses it a little bit, but it still is ridiculous, in a lot of ways.
But, and it's well, it used to be. It doesn't really happen nearly as much anymore, but I'm a West Ham fan. I'm not a fan of the hooliganism and stuff that used to be associated with the team. That kind of stuff doesn't have a place in football. Riots, things like that are something I hate about it. I hate it almost as much as like players diving on the field. But
I hate that worse.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If West Ham loses, I don't go crazy about it. It was a game. But there are a lot of people that take it way more seriously, and it always makes me laugh. For any team, if the Bengals lose tomorrow when they play, oh my God, people are going to freak out. And my take's always been...
They're not going to burn the city down or anything. They're going to...
But even
they're going to close up their grill outs
when
earlier.
They win championships that have riots in the streets. Like,
it's ridiculous, yes.
Why?
Well, because people can't control themselves. So that's, that's a human condition.
And it's that kind of mentality that allows governments to take incrementally more and more power.
Well,
you've shown us you can't control yourself, so we're going to institute this curfew on game nights. And it's just another step on a slippery slope to control.
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, we can control ourselves. We're adults. We're good.
But sometimes we can't. As evidenced by a number of cities around this country alone.
Crime in general.
Exactly. I mean, and when you have... 54 people shot in Chicago just last weekend. That's ridiculous. I mean, why can't you just control yourself? What's wrong? Just do the right thing. People don't do that. That's why you end up with government control. We don't just open the door and say, hey, come on in and do that.
But if there were some more government control there, like, not to get into it, I don't shoot anymore, but like firearms.
Yeah. If you didn't have a gun, I'd beat you to death with a hammer. I'd run you over with my car.
And it's harder to do that.
Or I'd stab you with my kitchen knife. I mean, it's...
But you know what? I will take that. I will take baseball bats. I will take brass knuckles. I will take knives because at that point, we have to be close to each other. I can't do it from across the street unless I got a bow and arrow.
But if I have 5 guys and you're just on your own and we all have bricks, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Now, if I have 5 guys with bricks and you're one guy with a handgun, and all you have to do is pull it out and aim it at us, and we decide, well, we don't really want to get involved with that.
I don't know very many people that have good enough aim. honestly. People think it's real easy to hit somebody.
Yeah, you don't need to have good aim with a lot of these situations. I mean, if I'm shooting across the room, you do. But if people are right up on top of me, if I can't hit you, then I deserve to be beaten to death.
You will probably get beaten to death.
Yeah.
It's just the way it usually happens.
But you'd be surprised how quickly the tide turns when a gunshot goes off. There's a natural tendency for everybody to get down and scatter.
Yeah, but
so it's an equalizer. I would rather my wife have a gun on her when walking down the street, a dark street full of hooligans, than for her to have a whistle on her.
True.
I mean, that I value her life more than a whistle or a can of bear mace or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would hate to think, if she has a whistle or a can of bear mace and she hits one or two guys with it and the other three pile in and beat the crap out of her or whatever, that would be bad,
but doesn't it get back to the overall human condition and to try and rein it back into like the
sure
initial talk about blind patriotism? What we're talking about there is, again, sides.
Mm-hmm.
Crime versus non-criminal, greed, which I think is inherently what brings down governments and brings down people.
Mm-hmm.
To take it back to something we're all familiar with from decades ago, being Gen X, why can't we all just get along?
Yeah, we will.
Why can't we all just fucking get along?
Yeah, that's such utopian idealism.
Is it, though?
It really is.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why?
Show me any diverse place where everybody just automatically gets along and
it's
there's
not
no
automatic.
crime or
you have
anything.
to reason yourself into it, and that's part of the problem is people don't want to fucking think.
Yeah, well,
all people want to do is take the easiest way out and see the lowest common denominator, like, you're different from me because of this, you should be the same. No, why?
You can rant and complain about it all you like, but that doesn't change the fact. I mean, there's never been a time in history of our civilization where diverse people met and everybody just kumbaya their way around and worked their way through problems. Up until the 60s, there
hadn't been a time when we had orbited the Earth either, but we got there.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is stuff we have to shoot for.
Sure, I think it'd be a wonderful thing. But in the meantime,
we have to take the first steps.
Yeah, well, in the meantime, when you've got people who aren't interested in listening to you or taking your first steps, how are you going to cope?
Shoot them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the problem. It starts with education.
You talk about
with
greed.
Yeah,
I mean, what is crime or what is violence towards somebody other than another form of greed?
For a lot of people, it's survival.
I want your sex. I want your money. I want your whatever you've got, your car or whatever, and I'm bigger than you and I'm going to take it.
So you've surrendered to your base instincts.
I'm saying there are people out there, there have always been thieves, there have always been, rakes and blackguards,
mm-hmm.
whatever else.
Rogues.
Yeah, exactly. There have always been these people out there preying on people that don't want to fight and don't
mm-hmm.
want to do anything. What makes you think that in a utopian society there wouldn't still be rakes and blackguards
I don't
out
believe in a utopian society.
Well, why do you believe in everybody getting along? And
I didn't say everybody would get along.
You said that nobody would succumb to their baser instincts.
Why would you need to succumb to your baser instincts?
Because people have dark sides. I mean,
so we can never overcome our animal lizard brain.
Why does a dentist, let's say, well, we'll use a criminal dentist. Why not? Why does a dentist who's making millions of dollars a year doing fancy orthodontics work, feel up a patient when she's gassed and doesn't know it? Why does he do something like that? He's got everything he needs. He's got a beautiful wife and kids at home. He's got lots of money. He's sitting high on the hog. He's got his own business, and he's doing good for the world. But yet he sometimes succumbs to his baser instincts and does something creepy like that. Why would you do that? Why would you need to do that? You don't need to do that. You go to church or whatever, you're a good person. People are fucking weird. But you're not.
Yeah, in that particular situation.
Yeah.
But keep in mind,
so if you
semi-hypothetical you just gave
sure.
is a very limited person.
But if you clothed and housed and fed everyone and gave everybody universal health care and catered to their every need to the point where they were all Eloys, if we can go back to the time machine reference. What would stop one or two people with a little mental problem or something, or a little dark side, from becoming the Morlocks and feeding on the Eloys? Because
weeding them out. You always, that's part of evolution.
How do you weed them out?
That's part of evolution. When the crime is committed, you deal with the crime.
I couldn't agree more. See, this is where we reach across the table, because I don't think a wild dog has any place in a civilized society.
Correct. To evolve,
but
everyone has to evolve, and that means that take it from a genetic evolution standpoint. The unnecessary parts of the DNA, the unnecessary traits get left behind.
How does that happen? Do you wipe out the people who are wild dogs? Do you kill them
and take them out of the gene pool? You're making it seem like there's a whole group of wild dogs out there. And here's the thing, your dentist example is 1 in thousands.
Well, how about the large groups of gangbangers in major cities? I'd call those blackguards and rogues. Mm-hmm. How do we get rid of that? You give them everything
jobs.
They want? Oh, okay.
Well, think about it. Why would
I work when I could just take it from you?
If you're a kid in an inner city that doesn't have much, doesn't have many prospects on the horizon, why is that? If you're living in Martin County, Kentucky, what are your prospects if you're a newborn today?
Yeah, you should probably find a way to move on to someplace
How do you move
else.
On? You don't have money to do anything.
Why don't you join the military and get a free ticket out of town?
You could.
Why don't you go get a scholarship, because of your unfortunate situation, and move on out of there?
Are you even going to school?
That's a good question.
Can you even get to school?
Why would I work as an auto mechanic making $20 an hour or $25 an hour when I could sell drugs and make 20 times that in a day?
Maybe you enjoy the work, and maybe selling drugs is just not up your alley.
Sure, but I think there are always people that will always take the easier path.
Sure.
That's human nature. I mean, you see that all the time. People take the easy way out.
I don't think it's the rampant, high level, high number that you do.
There are enough of them that would make you uncomfortable living in a certain area. Let's put it that way. If you knew somebody in your neighborhood here was a serial killer or a drug dealer, maybe they made drugs in their basement, would that make you uncomfortable? Would that make you want to run them out of town because you don't feel comfortable living next to somebody who could potentially kill you or bring, gang violence to your neighborhood or something?
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, there's enough.
Yeah, we're aligned on this.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I'm saying is you're never going to get to a point of a utopia. A utopian society immediately becomes a dystopia.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we can fucking get better.
Sure.
We don't have to end up in this warmongering savage state that you seem to want.
No, listen to this. You want me to be a warmongering savage? Where did that come from?
It just seems like you're in complete survival of the fittest mode.
No. I'm trying to look at things from a realistic point of view. That there are certain elements that cause disharmony in a society.
And there always will be.
And in the world.
And there always will be. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean we can't bridge those gaps.
We could try. I mean, how long have you been trying to bridge those gaps?
Me?
Well, how long is this country? Let's say, let's take.
Well, we've only existed for a couple centuries.
Yeah, about 150 years, but
and we've failed miserably at times. Mm-hmm. We've come together wonderfully at other times, so we've shown it can be done.
Sure. We
just, again, generationally, we always forget the good stuff that we seem to learn.
Yeah.
And we fall back into patterns of greed and divisiveness.
Well,
that's the problem. We've got too short a memory.
Yeah, that's usually a huge problem, is the short-term memory. You can see that with people, something bad happens last year, and then the next year they're rooting for the person that did something bad last year because they forgot.
Right.
That it even happened. And you see that all the time, and that has to do with the human condition right now, living in a world where you're constantly bombarded with advertisements and new news feeds and TikTok videos that fly by at the speed of light,
Yeah, basically put down your phone.
Yeah.
Go take a walk or read a book or ride a bike or play a guitar. do something.
Yeah.
Quit doom scrolling.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about people resort to greed, I mean, I think what a lot of that is you're talking about politicians.
Sure,
and
power.
Corporatists, power. People that aren't as powerful as you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
and people that aren't as
situation.
powerful as me should be shut down.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, I mean, what's the best way of putting this? I have this whole podcast that I've created. I've not scheduled it because I feel like it's one of those that shouldn't be scheduled. It should just be dropped like a bomb. Uh-oh. Like a bad guy. No, it should just be dropped like a bomb because it's called Your Last Words. And it's all about how you don't realize that everything you do online could be your digital epitaph.
Sure.
I mean, you could die tonight and whatever you wrote last on whatever social media platform you enjoy or whatever video you put out, it could be the last thing that people ever see from you. And when they go and they check out your page, it's going to say so-and-so memorial, and it's going to have that post right at the top. So
have you ever done that? Like people that either you or I both know or friends that we've had on Facebook, for example, that have died. You find out about it and you go back and look at what their last post was.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's pretty disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more disturbing when they're just talking about how they're really going to enjoy the concert next week or they're just finished a great burger and, we're going to go walk the dog tomorrow or something like that.
But see, that's what I'm talking about is if we could all shift, and it's a slight shift, just a little bit in our thinking.
You have to make it worth it for people.
People won't change. It should be worth it just in and of itself.
Logic's going to kill you, my friend.
Logic is how you get here.
Logic is something that is so far beyond some creatures
because we
on
don't
this planet.
teach it in school.
Exactly.
Intro to logic should start in like sixth grade, and you should have it every year on through high school and into college.
Well, the point of the whole epitaph thing was that why would you even dare to leave your final words because you're upset at something the city council did,
right?
Or the new president, or something else happened, and things that cycle and change every other hour, let alone every 4 years, kind of a thing. Things are constantly in flux, and they're constantly changing. And in this world now, especially, we're at an epoch right now where we are between the horse and buggy and the car. You remember those days? Kids, all you Methuselahs out there, remember?
Boomers.
Yeah, remember when you used to drive your horse and buggy down the streets, and then all of a sudden these newfangled, loud, rickety cars came along? And boy, that's just a hobbyist thing, that's not going anywhere. And then the next thing you know, the whole world changes, and there's an industrial revolution, and your whole way of life is flipped upside down, and some people never recover.
For us, it's like somewhere between the Commodore VIC-20 and having a phone in our pocket that we can do everything with.
Well, it goes even beyond that.
I get what you're saying.
The world is changing, and we're in the middle of it, and we're in that middle shitty part, where you're like trying to grow your hair out, and your hair looked
can't
great.
Tie it back.
Yeah, your hair looked great like last week, and now you look like an ass. You look like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and you're waiting for it to grow out, and it's going to take another 2 or 3 weeks, and you're just going to have to deal with bad hair. We're in the bad hair phase. So if you spend what I'm urging you folks out there to do, and you talk about blind faith and blind patriotism and all that, I'm urging you to just look at the world in your immediate vicinity. Look across the room. Do you see your husband or your wife or your kids, your lover, your grandma, your dog? What do you see over there? That is your immediate world. And you can do so many wonderful things to change that environment because you have control over that environment to an extent.
And that's all you have control over.
In a lot of ways, that's true.
But it comes back to something we've said before.
Well, you change your thinking, you change your world. And if enough people change their thinking, that's how you get change.
Be the change.
It's like you can't mandate it by government.
Never said you could.
And you can't mandate it through education.
You can help push it along.
You can plant seeds.
Yeah.
Johnny Logic seed.
I mean, really.
Yeah, you can plant seeds, but it's up to that person if they're going to allow it to grow or not, or if they're going to piss all over the ground and it'll die.
But the reward is the action.
Sure.
Being the good person. Being the example of what you want the world to be.
And it's like, I will say it again. I had a friend who passed away unexpectedly. An online friend, wasn't a close friend, but passed away unexpectedly. And I went and looked at his Facebook page, and it was nothing but a screed of stuff about anti-Trump and everybody that doesn't think like him is a retard. And they all should be shot and put in camps and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and this is the legacy you leave. Now, I know Patrick had plenty of wonderful things about his life. He created stuff that was wonderful. He had a wife that loved him. He had kids. He had wonderful hobbies. But if you just wander on and you say, oh, I remember Patrick, he used to make videos. And then you go and look at his page, he looks like a fucking asshole. And that's what he'll look like for the rest of eternity while Facebook and the other social media platforms stay alive. That's what people will think of him. And that sucks. And he did that to himself. That's the thing. What I'm saying is, people, look at the world around you. Look at the wonderful things you can do. Love what you love. Do you love your country? Great. Do something for your country. Do you love your neighborhood? Great. Do something for your neighborhood. You love yourself? Good. Do something for yourself. Don't whack off. But do something for yourself.
And don't do it blindly.
Yeah, exactly.
Always be willing to ask the question. Here's the other thing that we haven't touched on yet, and we need to wrap this up because this has become a double episode here at this point, is this. Any entity, be it political, theological, civic organization, whatever, any entity that dislikes questions, you should be fearful of.
Yeah, if you can't justify your platform, then you're not really standing on a platform.
Exactly. And we'll wrap it up with that.
Bingo.
So that's our take on blind patriotism. Miss Pennington, I hope you got your money's worth.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So, this has been the Gen Existentialist Podcast. My name is Scott.
And I'm Bunny.
And we'll catch you next time. Have a good one.